Okay, so Act 5, Scene 2 is quite a brief scene. A lot of the scenes in this act are quite brief, and it's there for a couple of reasons. One of them is it's important to note structurally in Act 5 how the scenes jump back and forth between Dunsinane Castle, where Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are, and outside of Dunsinane Castle, where the army is. And the way and how it jumps back and forth in between these two, right up until the climactic battle, really serves to build dramatic tension, and really so we can see the climax that we're heading towards. Okay, so that's one of the things that this scene is for, to jump over so we can see the battle that's the army that's gathering outside, and we can start to see what they're doing there. The other important thing here is that these are all Scottish people. Menteith, Caithness, Angus, Lennox. They're the Scottish people who are turning against Macbeth. And I think it was important for Shakespeare to show, King James particularly, who was Scottish, came from Scotland, that Macbeth wasn't just defeated by running off to the English and getting English help. The English support came, but primarily they were defeated by Scottish people who rose up against Macbeth with some English support. And so the focus on these scenes, even though they talk about the English support, is on the Scottish people. And so it's important that we note that. Look, just for some language things to pick up, how they talk about Macbeth. They don't use his name. They say, "What does the tyrant?" In this situation. And you'll find often that Macbeth's name is not used much in Act 5. Not by other characters. He's become so evil, so horrible, that they don't even want to use his name. They just say words like the tyrant, and that's actually dealt with in a scene a little bit later, the idea of not using his name. Little interesting fact about Macbeth, it is considered in theatre circles, if you're a proper actor, a stage actor, it is considered extremely bad luck to call the play Macbeth by its title, Macbeth. It's a superstition amongst theatre actors to not call it Macbeth. Instead, they just call it the Scottish play. It's a real thing, real big thing, and some theatre actors will take it very, very seriously. Because, as we see in this last act, the name itself, Macbeth, becomes synonymous with kind of evil and hell and devilry and everything like that, and you don't want to have to say it aloud. So note how the name starts getting used a lot less in this scene. There's other talk about him as well. Some say he's mad, so we start to get these outside perspectives of him. And then there's a really great line here. He cannot buckle his distempered cause within the belt of rule. So he can't take his cause to be king and to rule over. He can't buckle that with the belt of ruling. So just ruling, the act of pure ruling on its own, is not enough to keep this country together. And we can see that in the number of Scottish people that are rising up against him. So there needs to be something more, and that's so much what this play is about. It's not enough just to be king. You need to have authority from somewhere else. And this play is about where that authority comes from. Yes, it comes from God, and it comes from divine right, but it also comes from the people. And the people need to support you and love you to be king. Otherwise, you cannot run your country. And that's something that's made abundantly clear in this last act. We get some more imagery of clothing not fitting here. Remember, we talked about that a lot in Act 1 and Act 2. That's returned to here. It says, now does he feel his title hang loose about him, like a giant's robe upon a dwarfish thief. So again, the idea that his title does not fit him returns. There's a lot of, as you've already seen in Scene 1, there's a lot of callbacks to the rest of the play at different points in this act. And it just really helps to tie the whole act together. And just continually highlighting where his authority comes from and how that's not going to work. It says here, now minutely revolts upbraid his faith breach. So there are little minute revolts happening here and there. Scottish people rising up that are breaking the faith and of being the king's subjects. And it says, "Those he commands move only in command, nothing in love." So the people that he orders to do things are only doing it purely based on the fact that they've been ordered to do it. They do not love him, they do not respect him. It's not out of respect, it's not out of love, it's not out of any of that. And this ultimately will be Macbeth's downfall. So we get all of that. We get those thematic ideas of Macbeth being a poor ruler because he does not have the love of the people. We get the idea of Scotland rising up against him, and lastly, that dramatic tension that's really built. And we also have the idea of giving obedience where it is truly owed as well. Coming back to this idea that there is someone who deserves to be in that position, and they owe their obedience to that person, and it is not Macbeth.